Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have a gem of a show, because they're always a gem. My ex won't marry me. Why? Good question. Comes up a lot, actually. And surprise, surprise, it's usually the woman that wants to get married more. The narrative, that's not always the case, but quite common, is especially women that are in their late 20s, early 30s, but especially early 30s, 33, 34, 35 seems to be a sweet spot where women want to get married. And a lot of times, the age has changed, right? And let's just talk Western culture. I believe probably in the 1940s, 1950s, it was probably in your 20s. If you weren't married by the time you were 25, you probably felt that you had missed the boat. And I think that it's changed. And now the new 20s is 30s. And men, for the most part, in modern culture and modern times, we're talking 21st century now, are much more hesitant to get married, especially if they've been burned once before, or they have a friend, family, or colleague member that's been burned in a divorce bad. Now, I know as a teenager, having some talks with my dad wasn't big on, you have to do this, you have to do that. But there was, some long drives where we were on some fishing trips and things like that. And I remember one that stuck out to me. As my father actually said this, and my parents have been married for eons, 40 plus years maybe now. Don't get married unless you're going to have kids. And that's how my dad would give advice usually. It was very cut and dry. It wouldn't be with a story or anything like that. It's like, look, don't get married unless you're going to have kids. And his background for that was that, he had worked with some guys that have had divorces and, are getting parts of their checks taken out and different things like that. And it didn't really, I was probably 14 or 15. It didn't resonate with me, but I just, took it in. But, things like that, you don't realize that you pack them away into your subconscious mind. And surprise, surprise, I've never been married. And I don't have kids. I'm not against marriage. I'm not against kids. I do think you need to take your time before getting married. I do think you need to be as sure as possible. And by the way, there is no such thing as being sure. There's the belief that you're sure. And what I've noticed is a lot of women, not all, believe that once they get married and have kids, they'll be happier, or that'll complete the relationship. But if there's issues beyond just getting married, right? Let's say that the woman has a bit of a drinking problem. I like to use this one because there's so many people with drinking problems, right? There's a bit of a drinking problem, right? Like, what do I mean by that? It's like, well, I don't like the fact that she drinks on the weekends and sometimes she gets loaded a little bit too much. I'm thinking about a couple different friends that have been in these situations before where they're not, well, she's not an alcoholic, but she does get slammed on Saturday and Sunday, and sometimes it's a little bit embarrassing, right? But it's okay because I can drink with her, and it's all right. We're together, and that's what she likes to do to release. Now that's probably okay the first couple years, right? That's probably something you can deal with, and let me add to that, if you've had, which I don't know, probably 8 out of 10 people have a drug addict or an alcoholic in their family, right? So the idea that it's in your genes or something like that, I don't know how apparent that is. But it's just very common that you've been associated with someone with an alcohol or drug problem in your life. And so you'll measure it. So let's say that this woman that, and I'm going somewhere with this, that comes back to the original point. So you start out the relationship, and this is kind of one of those things you just don't like, but you deal with it. Yeah, you drink too much on the weekends, but you're not an alcoholic by my terms, or by your terms. And then as the relation grows, and let's say you get married, let's say you have a couple kids, that drinking on the weekends suddenly becomes, this is my wife getting loaded on the weekends. We got kids here. And then stress is amplified by, I don't know, the fact that you have kids, that you got a mortgage on the house, that there's a little bit more stress on having to stay together because you're married, not having an out. And this makes her maybe drink more. And you think to yourself, wow, she's becoming an alcoholic. I don't like this. But really, in the beginning, when you were first together, she always kind of had a drinking problem. It's just grown. It's always been there. But you chose to deal with it because you're pretty good together. But when you get married and you make that lifetime vow, because that's what marriage is, and it's, if you think about it, that's a pretty dramatic thing. What do we commit to in a lifetime for the rest of our life? What do we commit to? Is there anything else on the human spectrum that you commit to for the rest of your life? Is there anything else? I mean, even a job is a 30-year retirement usually. There's, people generally in their 60s or 70s retire, maybe do something else, but what else in your life do you commit to for the rest of your life? If you think about it, even people that are highly religious, they don't necessarily make a commitment one day with a ring and say, for the rest of my life, through sickness and health, through death do us part, I'm going to be with you. That's a pretty big commitment. And you're basically saying, no matter what, whatever you do, I'll be there. And I think that used to stand up for people, because people used to be more religious and devout to their vows. But I think now people go, wait a minute, I'm not going to be with an alcoholic 5 days a week, 6 days a week. You can't do that. I'm not going to put up with that just because we're married. And so, this marriage thing, till death do us part, it's not working for a lot of people. And there's not really an alternative. So these people that are in their 30s are going, this is what everyone does. And I've heard this a few times. Well, I just want a normal relationship, or I just want to be happy. I don't know if marriage is going to be the highway to happiness. Now, just to unpack that a little bit, I just had a coaching client last night, a guy that's come to me in the past, has a new breakup. And, when you're in a breakup, you're at ground zero, you start questioning some things. And this happiness thing comes up. Well, I guess I could be a little happier with my job. I guess I could be a little bit happier with this. And I think that, getting married would just make me happy. Okay. Newsflash, happiness is not a everlasting feeling. So if you really think about it, we are feeling different emotions every single day. So this idea of being happy is actually quite fleeting. This idea of, I'm going to be happy once I do this, especially getting married, right? Once I get this amount of money, and I'm with you, I've been in this boat before. Wow, if I was rich, I'd be so much happier. I've said this to myself many times, and I'm not a poor person. Or if I was as rich as this person, I wouldn't be as miserable as they are. That's a big one for me. Like, how can you be a billionaire and still have a bad day? Well, think about it. It's human. Someone can spit on your shoes. You can be in 2 hours of traffic, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm just happy because I'm a billionaire. Shit happens, right? And so, getting back to this talk, my ex won't marry me. Why? There could be a lot of answers to that. But the question is, why do you really want your ex to marry you? Why is it such a pressing thing? Because To me, when someone says, I want them to marry me, I want to get married, and they're not interested in it, they're not bringing it up, they're avoiding the topic, guess what? They love you, they care about you, they like being girlfriend, boyfriend. They don't want to get married. Newsflash. They have their reasons. They've been burned before. They've seen other people burned before. They just don't want to make that vow. And you're in the relationship and you're going, can't you see that this will make us happier? Can't you see this is what I want? And that's where people really, really get it wrong, because there's a lot of ignorance. And if I could teach people one thing about communication, interaction, there's way more miscommunication or misunderstandings than you'll ever realize, especially with text. Way more. Because you think the way you see the world is the right way, and the way you see the world is the way everyone sees the world. See, we have some clear lines, right? It's like I speak English, someone else speaks Thai. It's like, we can't really communicate as well. We can probably get by with a translator on the phone. Maybe some broken English, maybe I have some broken Thai, but there's going to be some miscommunications because the language is not there. So it's apparent, right? It's apparent. It's like, all right, we're understanding that. Some people aren't understanding. Some people, if they've never went outside of their country or talked to people from a different language, have you ever seen this before? I've seen this before. They continue to speak English thinking that it's still going to work. So, living in Thailand now for 11 years, there's people that come here on vacation. And I'm just going to use English as an example, but there's plenty of people from France, from Italy, from other countries that speak different languages. Now, Thailand was never colonized, and the level of English throughout Thailand is not very high. And so when people come over here and they don't speak any Thai, they're very frustrated, right? And they've traveled other places where people are able to interact with them a lot easier. And so they come here, and I've watched people have full conversations or full explanations or full inquiries to a Thai person that speaks zero English. And I can see by their body language and their reaction, and Thai culture is so beautiful and so kind that they usually will do like, They'll seem like they're understanding you, but they're really just being nice. And the person will go on and on and on, and they don't realize they don't understand anything you're saying. And then they get frustrated. Then they get upset. Well, why don't you speak English? I mean, this is a tourist place. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if I had a restaurant here on the beach and there was tourists coming here that spoke English, why wouldn't you speak English? Newsflash, you're in Thailand, dude. You're not in your home country. You actually should make an effort to learn their language. You're in their territory, in their environment. But this is a good example of just assuming everyone speaks your language. Doesn't everyone want to get married in their early 30s? Doesn't everyone know that's going to make you happier? Nope. I've got my own map of what I think is right or wrong. I have my own map of what I think will work for me in the future. And that map translates to your morals and values, right? Now, when you're with someone, you got to be careful that your morals and values, if you like them, don't get crossed up. It's not a bad thing to say as a man, I don't want to get married. I don't believe in it. You could find someone else out there that lines up with that. And this is the thing that's coming up again and again. The problem isn't women are all bad or men are all assholes, right? That's not the problem. And I'm seeing this on YouTube again and again. Oh, women are this, men are that. Women are this, men are that. Right? There's this big narrative that, and there's some truth to it. There's some truth to some of these narratives, but they're culturally grounded in environments. So this is what people don't realize. Your environment is going to dictate a lot of what you believe is right or wrong. Your content that you consume is huge. Think about this now. Let's say that you grew up in the time of Native Americans. So let's say in the 1700s, 1600s, and you were in a tribe, right? I don't know how many people have any history of Native Americans here, but I studied it quite a bit when I was in college. I'm not an expert, but I know a little bit. And what's the thing about a tribe, right? You got certain clothes you wear that identify with the tribe. You got a language that identifies with the tribe. You all live together, right? You all live together in a community. You share the same beliefs as far as religion. You share food together. A lot of Native Americans, a part of being of that culture is you better share with each other, and you have a lot of pride about your tribe, right? So there wasn't as much anxiety or worry because we're a team here. Now think about society now and how much flipped upside down that is. There's a bunch of people living alone. There's a bunch of people with scattered beliefs that change year to year. And I'm not blaming anyone or saying this is bad, but this is why a lot of people are having issues mentally. Right? What team am I? What am I a part of? And this is what's conflicting in relationships over and over again. Right? I just want to get to university pipe. Is marriage just a business agreement? What if you do a ceremony, get some rings, and skip all the legal paperwork so it's not legally binding and involve the state? At least a prenup if one does marry. I think it depends on where you're from, and it depends on your own personal belief of marriage. I can see where you're coming from on that. And, whatever you choose to believe, it's up to you. So a lot of people, marriage is such things that are old, things that have been going on for so long, people just accept them as the right thing. This is why we have this huge movement of quoting the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius, right? The Emperor of Rome. Marcus Aurelius could be quoted, right? And he could say that some guy could quote him, like Ryan Holiday or one of these authors can quote Marcus Aurelius and go, "Sleep is good for you. Sleep long, tight, and well." And this guy will put it up on his Instagram and it'll be like, Marcus Aurelius wrote this. And you're like, brilliant. It's the Emperor of Rome that said this from 8,000 years ago. This legend said this. Right? If I come on and quote, sleep is good, deep, the weight that's carried with who has the message, the weight of marriage being this great thing has to do with it being around for so long. And no one's saying, what's the alternative? Right? What's the alternative to marriage? It's a pretty far fall to be boyfriend, girlfriend, or I guess a lot of people will say my life partner. Maybe that's it, right? That's why I've approached it before. What if we had a 4-year sex contract? What if we had a 4-year contract that was in place of this? Now, this is the thing. People take their view on marriage based on their past experience. So that would be their parents, that would be their friends and family and colleagues, and that would be their own experiences. So if they've been divorced before, they're less likely to want to get married again, especially if the marriage was bad. And they also are encouraged or not encouraged by the content they take in. So if they watch a really good YouTube video that says never get married if you're a man, they can be convinced in a day. So the reality is that if your ex won't marry you, it's okay. You don't want to talk someone into marriage. It's not a highway to happiness. It's not going to improve your relationship. If you have holes in your relationship or you're not getting along, or let me just say you can't agree on the idea of like marriage is a good idea, I want to go all in, right? It's not going to change things. It's probably going to make things worse. It's probably going to build contempt over time. But there's this idea out there that once I get married, everything will be good and dandy. And I almost believe, look, when you get married, I call it the love pension. Okay? It's kind of the equivalent if you go out and get a good job, a solid job, right? And you get one of these jobs, and they're less common now. Derek D, how you doing? Leandro, always a pleasure. Oh, Johnny, Jersey's finest, right? You go out and you get one of these jobs that my father had one. He was union, truck driver. 30 years, you get your pension. 25 years, you get your pension. You get your medical for life. That's big, right? That's big. Things are changing now. The dollar's not worth as much as it used to be, so I don't know if that's the best career path, but before, that's peace of mind. There's certainty in that. Okay, right? You probably aren't going to be rich, but you'll be secure, and you know what you're going to get in 30 years, so you don't have your time wasted. You know, this is a big thing for people. I wasted my time. I would parallel marriage a lot in that way. You're going, I'm going to commit to you because 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road, sickness and health, we're going to be there together, and that's when it's really going to be worth it. Because every 10 years, right, every 60s, 70s, 80s, the longer I wait, the more I don't know if I want to be looking or date. I don't know if I want to be in the dating world at 60 or 70 years old. I want to be settled down. And when you work towards your pension, right, you're saying, I'll put in that 30 years because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be taken care of after that. I think marriage, in some ways, you're saying this is a long haul. I'm going to deal with some things because if I stick with it, it's going to be worth it. But you're probably going to have to give in some places. You're going to have to maybe do some things you don't like. And everyone would like to have that marriage where, you just get along seamlessly. And I think that's out there. I think it's available. I think it's possible. But the reason it doesn't happen more often, are you ready? You have to do an extreme job of filtering before you get married. An extreme job of filtering. You gotta line up with this person in a way that it's a connection where it's not that you don't fight. It's that when you fight, the fight makes sense. Or the argument is legitimate in the sense that I could see where you're coming from. You don't want to argue over things that are things that you find petty. Things that you find ridiculous. That's a red flag before you get married. I think I would consider marriage when courts are more favorable towards men and if I could tolerate the person. So here's the thing that people are saying, translation, double D, because I hear this a lot, especially in America. Men are scared if I make more money or I have more assets. And by the way, there's some women out there I know of that make more money and have more assets going into the marriage. There's a guy I know recently that just told me he ended up, I think they were married 20 years. It was a horrible marriage in a lot of ways for him. They were unhappy for 10 plus years. He ended up being a highly successful businessman. And he said she had him sign a prenup before because her family had a lot of money and her mother actually wanted her to sign a prenup. So he said actually they signed a prenup for her safety and he ended up just crushing it and making millions of dollars. And he still ended up giving her a significant amount because the lawyers would have got a lot of money if they would have fought further over. So here's the thing. What if, okay, let's say that you're considering marriage with someone. And what if you just said, let's just put the court and the money thing to the side. Do I still want to be with this person for the rest of my life? And why? Because to me, when someone's saying, well, I want to get a prenup and I want to make sure that doesn't happen. They're saying there's a good possibility we might break up. There's a good possibility that even though we're going till death do us part, I don't really believe that I have to stay till death do us part. I believe if I have a problem with you or you do some wrong things, I'm going to break up. So then why get married? Because you're really not that sure. I would say, though, to me, and this is my own personal thing, so it has nothing to do with me telling you this is how it should be. If you're going to have kids, and that's a big responsibility, right? If you think about it, that's one of the biggest ways you can change the world is raising good little humans with good morals and values and good ways about them. You want to give the greatest gift to the world, it's not just having kids, it's instilling good morals and values and virtue into those kids and them hopefully being some game changers in the world. Not millionaires or billionaires, just good humans, right? If you're going to do that, you probably have a better chance of doing that by getting married and being committed. So you'd probably have to check your reasons. Modern shrink, a trend I'm seeing is premarital counseling. I work with couples before they get married, and it makes a difference in getting clarity on what they want and need from themselves and each other. Great point. Thanks for mentioning that. I didn't know that was something that you offered. And I think that would be a great way to sort out expectations. So I do have a story that came in today that's in regards to this topic. And now that we got 10 on deck and 4 likes, got a giant ant that keeps coming back to the desk. In Thailand, we must have 100 species of ants. Okay, so, hey, coach, I got a breakup to share. I'm 28, and my ex is 34. We were together for 4 years now. It's been up and down relationship, but overall very good. So it's good that it's been up and down? Okay. He's a great man in so many ways, but I really want to have kids and get married. Okay, so you're clear on what you want. Yet he seems to be putting it off over and over again. Finally, he just told me that the reason he doesn't want to marry me is he doesn't believe in marriage, and he also isn't sure he could stay monogamous long term. So a lot of people might look at this and go, wow, red flag. He's going to end up cheating. I think that this is an honest thing that a lot of guys probably feel and don't say. He feels like everyone cheats, and although he hasn't cheated on me, he said he feels it's a possibility for both of us. He's actually a therapist himself, and because he's seen so many broken relationships, I believe his views on relationships are broken. Well, that would definitely affect his viewpoint. Seeing how relationships fail again and again. I would say that that's a legitimate thing at 34 years old, that thinking that, is this the last woman I'm ever going to be with? I think a lot of guys think about that. And I've even had a friend tell me that was madly in love with his fiance, then wife. They were together for 4 or 5 years. They seemed very good together. And he told me about a month or 2 months after they got married, and this was in their late 20s. And like I said, they had been together, lived together for a while, had plans. And he said, like, about a month or 2 months later, he had about a month where he was questioning, is this the last woman I'm ever going to be with? He told me that in private. And I thought to myself, I think that's a lot of guys' worry. I think it's something you probably get over with, but it's legitimate. And this is why I believe men probably in their late 30s to early 40s, at least the ones I talk to, if they haven't been married yet or had a bad experience, they're more apt to be ready. So that's why when this guy's just not ready, maybe in 4 or 5 years he'd be more ready. But that doesn't line up with you. He's great at what he does, but he does have a lot of sad stories to share daily. On the other hand, completely believe in marriage and kids, and I even believe it would be good for him too. So the important part is you believe it'd be good for him because you want to believe that. He'd be a great dad. He said he knows that. He's just not ready. So he's telling you why, These are legitimate reasons. These are legitimate feelings. And it sounds to me like you just can't accept it. You want to somehow manipulate the situation into, well, he'd be a good dad, so why wouldn't he want to do it? Maybe he knows that, but at 34, he's still thinking, I still check out women in the cafe. I still have impure thoughts. I'm not ready. That's actually very responsible on his end, and actually crystal clear honesty. A lot of guys wouldn't tell you that. This guy's got balls. So a few weeks ago, we just broke up. He immediately accepted it, while I kind of wanted and expected him to fight for it. This comes up a lot. This is one of those narratives that bugs me about I wish they would fight for it. Translation, I broke up with them so I could get my way. I broke up with them so they would, come to my door in the middle of the night with the rain falling like a movie scene, begging for me back, just so I can decide. I have to think about it, Paul. I have to think about it, John. Right? This is what. Oh, I wish they'd fight for it. Be prepared. You break up with someone and they got some kind of confidence and independence in them, the same reason you're attracted to them. Be prepared for them to go, swallow. Okay. Because he knows you want to get married. You want to have kids. You can't accept the fact that he's not ready. He knows that. So in his mind, he's like, all right, I won't fight it. And you're thinking like, well, I was hoping if I broke up with him, he'd change his mind. That's what you're saying. And that would be the worst way to get married. He said he agreed that I couldn't get married anytime soon, nor be pushed into it. So it's better we break up and give me the opportunity to find what I'm looking for. I then asked, what would it take for you to get married? He paused and said, I'm not sure. But what comes to mind is that I just have more life to live as a single man. Okay? Truth of love, a quick answer on that. Do you want to marry me? No. So, getting back, this guy, he's 34 years old. He says, I want to see what it's like to be a single man. I think that is a legitimate answer. And I'll tell you what, when I was in my mid to late 20s, I was in a very good relationship, 4.5 years, almost 5. Very good woman, very good connection. Ended up not working out for a variety of reasons at the end. Breakup surprised me, right? But I did want to see what it was like to be single again. I did want to sow some oats, if I have to be honest. That was in the back of my head. I was in my mid to late 20s. I thought to myself, is this the last woman I'll ever be with? It bugged me. That's not why we broke up. And by the way, when we broke up, I wanted that relationship back for months. But I'm just saying, looking back, it was on my mind for sure. And it's in the back of guys' heads a lot, right? And there's more availability to temptation than ever before with the internet and these dating apps. And let's just say one of your buddies becomes single, and you're in your, this guy's 34, she's late 20s, you're in this age range. So some people are married, some aren't. Some are in monogamous relationships. But let's just say your buddy becomes single. And he starts going on these dating apps, and he has these wild and crazy stories of passionate, intimate sex. Guess what? All of a sudden you're going to go, wait a minute. I never got to do that, man. It's going to cross your mind. It's going to affect you. And so his answer right now, even though you don't like it and it doesn't taste good, it's the truth. This guy's telling you the truth. You said he's a therapist. He's a truth seeker, right? What do therapists do? Correct me if I'm wrong, Modern Shrink. Seek the truth. What's your real feelings? What do you really think? And I think you just don't like what he says, and you're thinking, he'd be great in marriage. He'd be a great dad. I don't think he thinks he would be a bad dad. He's just not ready, and he's got curiosity. That crushed me. I cried and left the house. I haven't picked up all my stuff, and he said that he'd be happy to leave the house if I didn't want to see him when I picked up my stuff. See, that's one of those things he knows from dealing with couples. Now, you're probably thinking, I kind of would have liked to see him. He knows that that's not good for the breakup. And that's another thing. We lived in his condo, so I'm the one that has to move with my sister, whom I don't even get along with. It's like I'm punished. No. You made a decision that said, we've been together 4 years. I want marriage and kids. If you don't give it to me, I'll break up with you. That's what you did. And you thought he would go, no. Let's reconsider that. And he went, okay, I understand. And now you're going, oh, okay. What do I do now? Oh, let me blame him for not living in the condo. No, you made a calculated choice here. You made a choice. You knew it was his condo anyways. And this is what people need to be prepared for. When you go to break up and you think it's going to be a negotiation tactic, if you have a strong, confident individual that sticks by what they're going to say, and by the way, that's probably why you're attracted to him, be prepared for the person to go, okay. I've talked to his sister who told me he's been sad about things too, but she told me she didn't want to talk further as she doesn't want to get in the middle of things. She did tell me that you can't talk someone into marriage and he's just not ready. Well, there you go. You got it from two sources. Stop calling the family members because if he gets wind of this, he's a therapist, so he'll probably be more understanding. People don't like that. Don't call their family members. Even if you're close with the sister, don't do any more digging like that. And she's gonna tell him everything you said. I asked her when would he be ready, and she replied, time will tell. I'm sure you like that answer. I feel like he's wasted a good thing here, and I've wasted 4 years now. Another common thing, I've wasted my time. Time's never wasted. It's always knowledge gaining. You've learned some things here. You've learned that I want kids and I want a family and I want a man that wants kids and wants a family. Newsflash, he doesn't want it. Okay? So now you just got the clarity. You got the answer that you don't like, but now clears the path for you to find someone that does, because you're 28 years old, you're in the prime of your life, and you're capable of meeting someone else. In the process, you're going to have to hurt a little while. My mother told me that he was a jerk and I could do better. Well, that's a nice, comforting statement. It doesn't sound like he's much of a jerk. To be quite frank, it sounds like he's been dead honest with you. That's not really true. I just think he's got his guard up because of his occupation. Whether his guard's up because of his occupation or the fact that he told you that he'd like to see what it's like to be single and he's curious about other women, basically, and that he doesn't trust himself in a monogamous relationship for the rest of life, that's what he told you. But you're blaming his occupation. However you want to slice this and dice it, he doesn't want to get married right now. He doesn't want to have kids right now. Can that change? Absolutely. And let me add this. What you resist persists, right? Is a big one. You pushing him around about this and bringing it up and over again, it just makes him dig in even more. There would be a much better chance, if there was ever a chance at all, for you to cultivate the relationship in a way that he appreciates you, that he loves you more and more each day. And at some point he goes, you know what, I want to get married. Now, but you bringing it up and just saying how you want it and how he'd be good at it, it's kind of like me going to you and saying, have you ever tried Indian food? And you're like, yeah, I've tried it before. I hate it. And I had a bad stomach reaction and all this other stuff. And then I keep trying to force you to eat tiki masala chicken over and over again. And you're like, I don't want. Have you ever had someone keep offering you food or a food that you don't want? Have you had that happen before? And you're like, nah, I don't really like that. It's like I know someone, I don't eat a lot of dessert. I don't eat a lot of cake. It's not that I don't like it. If I have one piece, I'll have 2 or 3, and I just like to watch my sugar intake. And yet, when I come over, I hang out with this person, they always buy cake. And they're like, I got cake for you. No, you got cake for yourself because you like cake. You didn't get the cake from me. And then they go, oh, yeah. You're sure? And then are you sure you don't want a piece? Come on, you'll like it. I don't want any. I told you I don't like it. I told you I don't like eating cake. I like watching what I eat. I don't like eating sugar like that. Do you think he'll come to his senses? Better question is, will you come to your senses? Because what you're doing is saying, I don't accept this answer. And you're trying to manipulate it, massage it into another thing. Oh, it's his occupation. Oh, it's this. Oh, maybe his sister has a different answer. And now you're coming to me, which I respect you for coming to me. I'm a good source to come to. And you're putting your story out there, and I give you respect for that. And let me just tell you this. Are you coming to your senses? Are you taking what this man told you and accepting it? He accepted the breakup. Can you accept that he doesn't want to get married and have kids right now? And can you deal with that? And like he said, allow yourself to meet someone that's in that zone. Will he come back? And if he does, how can I help him see the light better? Well, if you grab your stuff and you don't say any nasty things to him, you don't continue to push him or say that, he'd be a good dad or tell him, that he should believe this or believe that, and you leave him alone in 2-3 weeks, 2 months, 4 months, if he misses you and feels like you were a great catch, maybe that'll be enough to change his mind and revisit things. But at least he knows if he does revisit things, that that's going to be what you want. So if he does come back, he's going to know, especially if he's a therapist, he's going to know this is what you're looking for. Now, the thing is, this guy doesn't sound like the type that's going to come back with a ring. He's been dug in on this. Seems like a smart individual. He seems to be wanting to see what it's like to be single. And by the way, that statement alone, I want to see what it's like to be a single man. This sounds counterintuitive. Let him. And sometimes when you go out there and you're in single land, you realize the grass isn't always greener, that the person you're with is actually a pretty special being. It's not easy to find someone you spend 4 years with. And they need time to sort that out. So I'd say if he did come back, it would be you and no contact, you leaving him alone, accepting the fact that he doesn't want to get married, not bringing that up ever again. And if he is going to see the light, it's going to be on his own. It's not going to be with you with a sales job. So I hope that helps you. If anyone else has a story they want to send in, feel free to send it into writemac.com, WRITEMAC. All right, let me get into the live stream. I only got about 10 minutes, and I got a call to make. So let's see what we got here. And sorry, folks, I've been off the airways. I'm taking a hypnotherapy certification course right now. It's really good, man. Anyone that wants to do some hypnotherapy with me, it's a game changer. It really is. And I have some new things about letting go, some emotional freedom techniques, some other things that work really well. And the certification course I'm taking, what's really nice is they make you the client. So all the things that you would use, we're actually doing them in the course with each other. And you're sorting out your own, because we all have different issues, right? And so it's great. So I'd encourage any of you out there that want to do some hypnotherapy, hypnosis work, get to your subconscious, or if you have questions about that you want me to answer. I mean, it's just, to me, it's one of the better things to shift your paradigm. So the guy is traumatized by his work, burned out, and not really into her, in my opinion. Traumatized is a very strong word. I wouldn't assume someone's traumatized. I think that, it didn't say what type of therapy he does. It didn't say if he was a marriage or therapist counselor. So I would say that it definitely could affect his views on it. Being traumatized by it, I'm not sure. I mean, seems like he's pretty clear at 34 years old that, and it's a legitimate thing for a guy to say, I want to see what it's like to be single. It's a legitimate thing to say, I have worries of getting married and not wanting to be with the same person for that long. There's nothing here where traumatized would mean he had a specific story or a specific event that just was really, like his mom and dad were married and got divorced when he was 13 and his dad cheated on his mom. That would maybe be something like that, but that's not what's being described here. She was surprised the ultimatum backfired. And the thing about ultimatums is they work either way, because you're tired of the runaround. You're tired of not getting the result, so you just want a yes or no. And when you get the wrong answer, you start to regret it. But the reality is you wanted that. You want to know, hey, if you're not with me, are you willing to break up with me? So don't complain about the condo or moving out, because it's his condo, right? He didn't punch you out of the house. He didn't throw you out. He didn't abandon you. Now you're creating a narrative that makes you the victim. In reality, you just wanted to make a stand about what you want, and he told you and he didn't like it. The career can change a lot of people on marriage. I believe in love and healthy relationship, regardless of how many divorces and breakups I work with. Good for you, Modern Shrink. I actually have a marriage and family counselor in the group that I'm learning with. It's interesting. It's wild because that's a closing tactic to lead to buyer's remorse. Whenever a potential client showed disinterest in my pitch, I'd pack up mid-pitch, say, seem you're not interested, have a good day. Yeah, a good book for that, Derek D, is Influence by James Cialdini, I think. I think that's his name. People don't like to be pushed. Yeah, and they respect someone that goes, okay, no problem, fine. He told her the real estate of his mind. She can't accept it. Wow, I've never heard of the real estate of my mind. That's a good way to put it. If you take a gun and shoot you or expose you slowly to a poison and kill you over time, what's the difference? The difference is that it takes longer to kill you. Being honest doesn't justify it. Keisha, what's up? It's been a while. It's actually just a few days ago. I was going through my comments and I seen the one from you where you said you pulled over the car listening to one of my videos. How you been, Keisha? Yeah, if you want to try hypnotherapy with stuff outside of just breakups, you got a limited belief, you want to work on your confidence. For some reason, hypnotherapy is regarded as, oh, this is what you do for if you wanted to quit cigarettes or you want to do weight control. And it works for that, but I think it works for a lot more than just that, in my personal belief. And for some reason, and I don't know why, but I've noticed that, I kind of have my hypothesis about it, but, therapists or people that have outside ways of dealing with things, hypnotherapy to them or hypnosis to them is something that you do on stage or magic or woo-woo, and it can't be compared to therapy. And I think that people that do hypnosis or hypnotherapy aren't trying to compete. It's a different way of dealing with your problems. And it also to me, it gets to the root of the problem a lot quicker. And I think that therapy can be very good for people, and I'm not against it. But for some reason, I've noticed that therapists have kind of this negative view of hypnotherapy, or disregard it as not as good as getting therapy, or it wouldn't work for these things. When in reality, I would say, if you feel that way, I would definitely try it yourself for your own issues, right? Because correct me if I'm wrong, Modern Shrink, even if you're a therapist and you're good at what you do, we all have some issues, right? Myself included. That's the way we're compassionate about things. Many people can't take no. Good point. I would add to that, Sabina, many people can't understand why you don't see what they see, especially when they think it's in your best interest. Some people have this with parents. Their parents can never accept their idea of what happiness is or a job. And I've seen this with friends that their parents are really wealthy or successful, and they want to push them in a certain direction. And the ironic thing is the kid might even choose the direction the parent is pushing them if the parent wasn't pushing them. Does that make sense? Human beings, adults, get to a certain age and you just don't want to be told what to do. You want to figure it out on your own. It's like I have a small collection of seashells and rocks. Now people might be going like, what? Rocks. Yeah, I like rocks. Small collection. I don't have them, like a pile of them. And a woman I was dating a while back one day came to the house and she had this bag of seashells she got from the beach and rocks. And she's like, I got these for you. And I said, why'd you do that? I like to pick my own rocks and seashells. And she kind of looked at me and I was like, these, you know what I mean? That's part of what I like about it. And you also grabbed like 5 pieces of coral, which I would never do. I would never, like, coral's a living system, right? So it's like, you picked up coral. She's like, oh, okay. Like, I thought I was doing something nice for you. I didn't get angry about it, but it was kind of interesting because I'm like, part of the reason I picked these rocks or shells is I get to pick them, right? Yes, we do. I try everything and done hypnotherapy in the past and conducted it, but I steered away from it. Not against it, just not my style. I'm more trauma-based. No problem, Monitoring. Thanks for your feedback on that. What I would add, and I think you might agree, I think that especially in a place like California where things are expensive and a lot of people have medical insurance, a lot of people are steered to go the therapeutic route of what would their insurance pay. And in that case, you might end up with a therapist that's overworked or someone you just don't line up with. I think that gets lost, that you can go to, I think Clutch mentioned this before from The Truth of Love here, that he had to go to like 16 or 17 therapists, and someone might go, wow, this guy's nuts. No, that's smart shopping, dude. If you can't find someone that resonates with you or has good rapport, it's gonna be less likely to help you. And I think that gets lost. If you're just a therapist and you have, I don't know, I'm a PhD or I'm this or I'm clinically certified hypnotherapist. If we don't have a good rapport, and I think what gets lost is a therapist is supposed to be objective and neutral, myself included, but there's certain topics that come up that someone might be biased towards or judgmental because of their background. I just had a client recently that's been talking to me, and he wrote his ex got back into contact with him, and he wrote these declaration letters of, I just want to get back together, da 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 da, and all, and I'm like, hey, look, stop doing that. Just meet up and have a date and get in each other's contact, have nice conversations, but quit trying to get back together and declare the relationship back on. So he kind of agreed, and we went back and we talked again. And then he did it again. He went back into like how he wants her back and how he had to state all these things, and he wrote these deep messages, and they hadn't talked in 7-8 months, right? And I'm like, look, meet up, get in each other's space, and let it grow organically. You got to kind of start over again. Stop going into this thing that you want her back and you want to be together again. You haven't even seen each other in 8 months. So I said, hey man, I want to tell you, I kind of talked to another therapist. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not threatened by that. He goes, and the therapist told me, that I needed to convey these messages because I was the one that left, which wasn't what he had told me originally. He told me originally some different stories than he told this therapist. And guess what? This is what stood out to me. I thought, well, she's a woman, right? Now, nothing against women, but this woman that's a therapist is probably giving him advice that she thinks the woman would want. Think about that for a minute. Now, she thinks this would comfort the woman based on her own experience. This is where it becomes different, that I deal with people with just breakups primarily, right? If you come back to me for other issues and we've had a session and I know you really well, we can talk about everything. But I know breakups really well. Okay? I don't even like to say expert because it's such a big field. But this woman that told him to, declare all these feelings, I would venture to say that she was basically saying, if I was the woman here, this is what I would want. Now, the question is, would that lead to getting back together? Or would that make her feel really good? And in this particular case, this particular woman, who he told me about her characteristics and her personality, I don't think it would work. Because it would be too easy for her. It wouldn't hold the same value. So I told him, I said, you're putting everything out. There's no mystery. There's no wondering here. And, you're creating no buildup. But the therapist that told him this, like I said, just wants to, let's just make sure everyone feels good. And that's what she would want. My question would be, was this therapist ever in a breakup before? If you go to a therapist to deal with breakups, if they've been married for 30 years, look out. If they have the model of this is what they're going to project that onto you, right? So my question is, like, if you really want to get back with her, declaring that you want to get back with her in letters and notes and long emails, and and you haven't talked for 8 months, and you've told me about her personality and your issues, and you told me that, from what you told me, you tell me you want to get back with her. This is what I'm going to help you with. If you tell me you want to make her feel better and you want some solace from this thing, you can send that. But you're sending these declaration things, trying to become boyfriend and girlfriend before you even met up again. Right? Sounds like a bad therapist. What I would say is maybe it's a bad therapist for this situation. And that's where I think that there's even when I'm doing hypnotherapy right now, the training's excellent right now. I'm really into it. But I still think, like, I don't want to handle 100 different things. Well, you can handle this, and you can handle that, and you can handle this, and you can handle that. It's like if I had a contractor come, right, to build a house, I wouldn't say, like, and the contractor's like, look, I can do everything. I can do everything by myself. I can do bathrooms. Oh, you want countertops? I do that too. They're going to contract it out is what they're going to do. You're going to get a countertop guy that does countertops. You're going to get a bathroom person that does tile. You're going to, you know what I mean? So sometimes with these things with, these issues with, oh, I can handle that. I can handle that. You want to quit smoking? Specialize. And then you can help someone with a particular problem and do it at a very well. All right, folks, I do have to run. I have a live coaching right now. It's been good. It's been grand. I'll be back on deck soon. If you want to book a live coaching session, go to wrightmac.com. If you want to do a hypnotherapy session, go to wrightmac.com. Live stream will be on in the next few days. I just had that 3-day course on the weekend. Get this. This is dedication to learning, to being a better hypnotherapist. 11 p.m. start for me, 8 a.m. ending. All-nighter. Had some coffee, and it was excellent. All right, folks, it's curtains. Take it easy.